welcome, it's London Man. In this segment, we will be covering Saturn's Eye and crater Earth. Let's go.
Fasten your seatbelts, here it comes. Let's zoom in on the moon. The moon is the reflection of Earth. Not the little ball you have been told, but a gigantic Earth. And in one of these craters we live. The crater Sulpicius Gallus M. Probably you won't believe a word I say, but I will prove it to you within the next minute. Watch this. Take a freeze frame of the crater. Darken the image. Now let's make a 3D map. Watch the differences in height. Next, we take the official Antarctica map. Flip horizontally, rotate a bit, skew it a bit, put it on top of the 3D map. Well, for me that's a match. But for you unbelievers, let's watch it in detail. Now a lot of people won't believe this, but what are the chances that I take a random crater of the moon, make a 3D map of it that matches the map of Antarctica perfectly? The chances are zero, except when you know what you are doing. If you want to know how I got there, I explained it in my previous videos. To be honest, this insight was a complete surprise for me too, because I thought there was no Antarctica. So both theories are true. You have the ice wall of the flat Earth, within the middle the North Pole, and you have the continent Antarctica. Only it is much bigger and it is not surrounded by water. There is probably no South Pole, as we are not on a little ball.
I agree, God give Lemsty, about living on the moon inside a crater. I am not too sure about the crater being Sulpicius Gallus M. Here, let's take a look together. Now, this is the side of the moon that everybody should be familiar with. And here we have Sulpicius Gallus A, Sulpicius Gallus H, and Sulpicius Gallus M. And if we zoom in, we change the topography of the crater, but as you see, the crater floor seems to be very much empty at this moment. Nothing in sight, no continents yet, just smaller craters covering the floor. Interesting. What is this to the bottom right of the crater? Looks like more land, continent, Abeti. Wow, named after the famous Giorgio Abeti. And what do we have here? Isis, Osiris. Very interesting. This map reminds me of something else. Let's have a look. Bingo, Isis and Osiris. Let's do some cross-referencing with the moon map just to make sure. The Isis and Osiris continents seem to be located on the same place as the moon map. This is very interesting, but why can't we see any more of the other continents? And if you are familiar with my work, you would know we already located the two-headed beast in the Mare Crisium crater, which is Australia. Curtis and Eckert, the two-headed beast, in plain sight. Somewhere along the line, I'm pretty sure I've heard Australia being a prison, or used to be a prison. Mare Chrism. Chrism sounds a lot like prison. Well, anyway, this is one of the reasons why I say we could possibly be placed in different craters, not just one, but many across the moon, that makes up the whole crater. Let's go. Now this is the surface of Mars. Pay attention to the names they give it and how many craters there are in sight. Now this is why I say it is possible to live inside a crater. I don't think they would go for extreme lengths to show us every crater and name them. Utopia Planitia. Could this be the region of Europe? Very interesting. Look how many craters there are. Now this location right here, I know exactly where this is, but I'll leave that for another video. Let's go. Now I know there will be some people questioning the CGI method, but I'm not here for that. I'm here for the open-minded people. We are here for the 80-20 rule. Let's keep going.
Mystery emerges that will take investigators from the deserts of Mars to the birth of one of the greatest civilizations on Earth.
There's an obvious crater in the landscape here in Mexico, but it's not so much the crater that catches my attention, it's what's inside this crater.
This is intriguing because what we're seeing is this white color, and boy, it sure does look like ice.
It's so unusual because we're talking about Mexico, and this white patch stays here all year round.
The mystery white crater is one of a cluster known as the Seven Luminaries, which, when viewed from above, mirror the Ursa Major constellation. To NASA's Kasha Patel, this extraterrestrial connection may be more than just coincidence.
This crater reminds me of something, but it's not on Earth. This crater looks pretty similar to the Korolev crater on Mars.
The Korolev crater in the northern lowlands of Mars contains enough water ice to fill almost 1 billion Olympic swimming pools.
Most of the ice found elsewhere on Mars is mixed with frozen carbon dioxide, but it appears that the icy regions in the Korolev crater are composed of more pure water.
The crater is named after visionary rocket scientist Sergei Korolev, who, during the Cold War, helped the Soviets to outsmart NASA by landing the first spacecraft on the moon. In a twist of fate, the space agency hopes his legacy will be key to the future human colonization of Mars.
I think we have the fish right in front of us. If this is the fish, that means the bird must be really close. Take a look at this map which I came across. Ceresor or Cator map looks very familiar. Tycho crater. Look at the rock formation in the center of the crater. Through my research and understanding, I think they are showing us the same crater. I think that is the bird and the fish in the center of Tycho. You have the bird, and you have the fish in plain sight. The silhouette, look at that.
Large area of low pressure and cold air that surrounds the poles. Saturn has them too. There's one on the south pole and one on the northern pole, but the northern pole's storm looks kinda odd. It's shaped like a hexagon. The Earth's polar vortex has a wonky shape, mainly due to mountains, oceans, and other features that affect the path of air. On Saturn, however, there's nothing to disturb the polar vortex. The planet is just gas. This means that the vortex here can be very symmetrical and orderly, governed by only atmospheric forces. The hexagon-shaped pattern was first found in 1988 in images from NASA's Voyager 2 on the left, caught in 1981. But NASA's Cassini spacecraft has obtained higher resolution pictures of it, such as the one on the right. Here's another view from Cassini of Saturn's North Pole. The storm is about 32,000 kilometers or 20,000 miles in diameter and is bordered by bands of ammonia and hydrogen winds blowing up to 500 kilometers or 300 miles per hour. Some of these vortices are seen to be moving clockwise, while others move counterclockwise. The formation is about 200 miles deep into Saturn's atmosphere. What's more interesting about the hexagon is that the vortex is at a higher altitude than the clouds of Saturn, so the shape has raised like a huge tower. We've never observed something like this in another world.
Complexities it adds to the planet known as Jupiter and more. Join me as we explore a giant hexagon that has appeared on the surface of Jupiter. Among the many planets in our solar system, one that continues to demand attention from us here on Earth is Jupiter. Not only is it the largest planet in our solar system, but it's one that has very unique features and events going on that honestly doesn't happen on other planets near us. And just when you think it's done revealing all of its secrets to you, it goes and has another thing happen. This very unusual discovery was made by the Juno space probe very recently, and it's an event that at present honestly doesn't have a scientific explanation, but we'll do our best to describe it to you. This event is currently happening in the atmosphere of Jupiter, and it can only be described as a whirlwind of power that is the size of Australia. For the record, it's 2.9 million square miles in size. Does that have your attention yet? No? Then how about this? This event isn't one thing, it's 7. The first one is the one we just described to you, a massive whirlwind event the size of Australia. But now I need you to multiply that by 6, and then have those 6 new events surround the first one in such a way that it honestly makes a hexagonal shape. This is something you'd likely think is science fiction or a projection of something that could happen one day. But it's real, and it's happening right now on Jupiter. The Juno probe found this at the planet's south pole when the craft was just 2,000 miles above the cloud layer. Going back to the 7 whirlwinds, even the smallest of them has an area that is slightly larger than the state of Texas. This should go to prove that this isn't just a weird set of coincidences. This is an event that has been building and is perfectly placed where it is for a reason. But what that reason is, your guess is as good as mine. But here's the rub. At one point in time, there was only 6 of them, and they were shaped in a pentagon formation, with the biggest one being in the center like it is now. It only got to hexagonal shape after another joined the pod. One of the biggest reasons that people are paying attention to this is the fact that this formation has to be recent, because it has never been found on Jupiter before. Now granted, we haven't known everything about Jupiter. Even now, we're still discovering things like the fact that it has a lot more moons than we expected. However, for something of this size to go unnoticed for so long would be like the Great Red Spot being missed for centuries until we got the right look, and realized it was there the whole time. For further proof of this notion, I guide you to the fact that various cyclones and hurricane-like entities have already been found on Jupiter in the past, including the Great Red Spot. The problem here is the formation. While it's not hard to believe that a massive cyclone or hurricane kind of thing would happen on a gas planet for all sorts of reasons, for them to sync up like they are doing and creating a shape that defies explanation is rather mind-boggling.
The exact mechanism of the hexagon's formation is unknown.
Very interesting. The hexagonal formation seems to be exclusive to Saturn and Jupiter. Not to mention, we have found these patterns on Earth, whether it's living or non-living things. Let's take a look.
Enlarge the small rexes to optimum size unless I place a pupil expansion device. Here goes a B-hex ring, a pupil expansion device invented by Dr. Suven Bhattacharjee of India. I go through the side port and tuck this flange at 9 o'clock. And then I go through the other side port and tuck this flange at around 1 o'clock.
Bingo! And there we have our first hexagonal shape within the eye, just like the eye of Saturn and the eye of Jupiter. Let's head over to Hollywood and see what they're using with their hexagonal pattern. Let's not forget, if the moon is the universe in its total image, then we should be able to find some hexagonal patterns on the moon's surface. The more I looked at these hexagonal patterns, the more they looked back at me, like I was being watched, almost like an eye was looking at me. Apollinaris was a saint from Syria who died in Turkey with a crater on Mars. Very interesting, because the maps that I located seem to have Syria in Mars. Very interesting. Apollinaris means effervescent mineral water. Are they trying to tell us waters was once running through Mars, just like Africa?
The light changes and reverses direction, and we can see that eye that's up there in the sky right now that's hidden. It's hidden from us right now, but it's also responsible for creating different luminaries that we can see in the sky. So this is the ultimate eye in the sky. So all of the all-seeing eye symbolism, all of the eye of gods, all the various one-eyed gods, etc. This is their eye. It's a physical portion of the firmament, which is made of ice, and it looks down on us. Now let's get back to the etymology of the word egg. Right? If you look up the etymology of egg, it says here that it stems from Old Norse egg, which is how we normally spell it, from the Proto-Germanic adja. You see that right there? Let me check this out. Now follow me with this. Words change, okay? We have different letters that sound like other letters, so they start changing over time. Egga, the G sound is the exact same, depending on how you say it, as the J sound, right? Ja. just like, I don't know, there's G can make a J sound, right? Like it sound like a J. So Aja and Ega are the exact same. Let's take a look at down here. It says from the Proto-Indo-European root word auyo or oyo or oyo, which means egg in Proto-Indo-European. This is interesting. So remember, these are two Y's in a row, sometimes two J's in a row, right, which are basically the exact same letter, sometimes two G's in a row, depending on the pronunciation. This says this Norse-derived northern word lived on in Middle English with native cognates or related root words to eye, as in the eyeball itself. The word eye has the exact same root word as the word egg, which means they're the exact same word. It's just different pronunciation and dialect and accents over time transform them, different inflections give them different meanings. You know what I mean? So the word oyo, aja, all of these words are the exact same word, or the word egg is the exact same word as the word eye, eyeball. In Spanish, it would be ojo, I believe is how that's pronounced, right? Ojo, oyo. And there's different ways to pronounce it depending on your dialect, right? And this is why it is the eye symbolism, because it looks like an eye. You know what I mean? This is exactly what the dome looks like, except for maybe not yellow in the middle like that. The outer portion would be the firmament, the ice part of the firmament. Then you have that inverted dome that faces downwards towards us, giving us the eyeball symbolism. Eye and egg are the exact same word. Exact same word. So, when the egg of the world breaks open, life pours into this world.
Yeah, do you know what that is? That is wild.
The item on the left with the circle at the top, it looks like what Cleopatra the alchemist drew on her one page. Remember, she had a one page and she had just 3 images. She had something similar to that on one side.
When I see this, right, especially these cavities right here, it reminds me of this, like the eyes. Like this, like we're seeing it from a different angle almost. Like this is where the eyes would sit.
Oh.
This would be the skull and everything back here.
Yeah, I see that for sure.
And that's kind of how they're formed, London, in terms of like fetal development. They start out from the back and then project forward, outward, to me, in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very, very true. I remember talking about that on the Eye series, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big reason why I don't wear sunglasses as much as possible anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
When I go outside.
Thank you, ladies. Because even like this one right here, right, the one underneath the sigils that you guys had, this reminds me of the eyes. Because even when me and Z done a stream before, we was covering how the eyes, for some reason, it's like they've been wired crosswards, like they're wired back to front for some reason.
Yes, I think that's part of like uncrossing the DNA.
Aldebaran, the follower, is a star located in the zodiac constellation of Taurus. It has the Bayer designation Alpha Tauri, which is Latinized to Alpha Tauri and abbreviated Alpha Tau or Alpha Tau. Aldebaran varies in brightness from an apparent visual magnitude 0.75 down to 0.95, making it the brightest star in the constellation.
This is the lens at the bottom.
Ooh.
This is what I'm thinking. This is how it would come in.
Yeah.
And those and that.
And then
that
it would be a
reminds me of
reflection.
all of the layers of the retina.
Yes.
Oh,
The
I love
hyaloid
that.
canal, and then that dome is the vitreous, and then all those layers are in the retina.
Come on.
I'm telling you, man, we live in God's eye. It also reminds me too of like in churches